It's time for Coffee with the Chicken Ladies, a podcast for people who love chickens.
Hey everybody, and welcome. It's Chrisie&Holly from Coffee with the Chicken Ladies. We're here, and this is episode number 196 of our podcast, where we talk about everything chicken, family, fun, and
more chickens.
We drink a ton of coffee. I'm talking a ton. But most importantly,
we hug chickens every day.
And we kiss them too. Don't forget. We brew coffee from a little coffee roaster in Houston, Texas. Bright and early coffee. Holly Ann, what kind of coffee are we brewing today?
Breakfast blend. Don't say another word.
In the afternoon.
Oh my God. Look, I drink breakfast blend all day long, so stop it, you.
Okay, so if you're not drinking this breakfast blend, you are missing out. Check out Bright and Early Coffee. We have a code. It's CWTCL15 for 15% off a bagged coffee. Where should everybody go?
brightandearlycoffee.com.
And get K-Cups on Amazon. And follow them on social media. Are you ready to sip some of this delicious breakfast blend coffee in the afternoon and chat?
I am. But first, a word from our sponsor.
We have some exciting news to share from our sponsor, Grubbly Farms. They're here, new and improved, Grubbly's World Harvest.
I'm a longtime subscriber, and my flock love the healthy, nutritious treats, plus orders $40 and more ship free.
If you haven't heard, Grubbly's has a fantastic layer pellet and crumble feed. It's packed with plant and insect protein, perfect for those picky chickens and ducks.
Grubbly Farms makes food and treats for healthy pets and planet.
To support us and Grubbly Farms, use the link grubbly.co/coffee. Try it today.
If you're looking for a chicken coop that's produced in a planet-friendly, sustainable way, try Nestera.
Each coop is made from highly durable, 100% recycled plastic that keeps the equivalent of up to 2,000 shampoo bottles out of a landfill.
Their clean, modern design will fit into any garden or run area and comes with an industry-beating 25-year warranty and a range of handy accessories.
Simple to put together, so quick and easy to clean, and most importantly, red mite resistant. Your chickens will love it.
Quick shipping from Nestera US.
For a 5% discount, use the affiliate link in our show notes, on our website, and on Instagram. Link in bio. Check them out today.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah.
Do you like subscription boxes?
Does it have anything to do with chickens?
Of course.
Then yeah. Let me take a minute to tell you about the Chicken Love Box. If you love goodies for your chickens and you need to go to chickenlove.com.
I love the mega box. Tons of useful products for my flock and a chicken tea for me.
You can't go wrong with a chicken tea. They are so cute and so soft.
In the April box, I absolutely love the chick leg bands and the organic soap set with hen decoration.
I am loving the Chicken Spirit long sleeve tee, and those chick vitamins, they could save a chick for sure.
Boxes start at $39 a month. They ship immediately after your order, and shipping is always free.
Such a great deal. Don't wait. Get off the nest and click already. Use the code CWTCL50 for 50% off your first box of a 3-month subscription or more. That's chickenlove.com. That's chickenluv.com. Get your subscription today.
The Breed Spotlight is brought to you by Murray McMurray Hatchery, defining quality for generations. For over a century, Murray McMurray Hatchery has remained a trusted family-owned business, working tirelessly to ensure our poultry meet the highest standards.
Whether you are an experienced enthusiast or just embarking on the journey, look to McMurray Hatchery for guaranteed quality, rare and heritage breeds, low minimums, and all the supplies you need to raise your flock. Request a free catalog today. It's time for the Breed Spotlight, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, now this week's Breed Spotlight, we're talking
the Nankin,
which has a special place in Holly Ann's heart, of course, since she owns about a ton of them.
I do have quite a few of them.
Just a few.
I have a couple of Nankins. They are, oh my God, everything about them is so adorable.
I think Nankins and I think the napkin chicken.
Oh, don't even do that.
The napkin chicken.
What is that? No.
Nankins. They're napkins.
Okay. I'm speechless.
So your bachelor flock is of the Nankins.
Right.
And then George and Martha and their harem.
Right.
Are the other Nankins.
Right. So yeah, I have two omelet coops because I think they're great for bantams.
Mm-hmm.
In walk-in runs because Nankins fly really well and they need an aviary-style coop. I'm not sure how many I have altogether. I'm not going to count them.
Nobody does.
No.
It's worse. Everybody knows we're superstitious. We don't count our chickens.
Yeah. The ridiculously adorable Nankin, and they are so cute. They are an extraordinarily old breed of chicken.
They're old, man.
Very old. Just FYI, everyone, I forgot my glasses today. So even though I wrote
can't see your notes.
I know. I wrote these notes out. I'm having a hard time with it. Okay.
So they are true bantams, though, which definitely means there is no big counterpart. They are just true bantams.
No, there's no full-size Nankin out there. Not at all.
No, that would be funny.
After several years, or probably several decades, they have moved up from critically endangered and are currently listed as threatened by the Livestock Conservancy.
All because you have some.
Right. They are lovely, friendly, healthy birds. They chat away. They're happy little foragers. They like to scratch for bugs, but they do handle confinement pretty well.
They're tiny. Yeah.
They are tiny, tiny. They are perfect for chicken keepers with limited space.
Mm-hmm.
I do not understand why there aren't more of them around. They're not readily available, and they should be because they're awesome birds.
Well, that's why there's not more of them around. Unless you start sending out hatching eggs, man.
Well, I have. I mean, I haven't sent them out, but I've delivered hatching eggs.
Yeah. I mean, it all goes back to availability. It all goes back to what's available for people to get.
There's a supply and a demand issue there, too. So, like, if there were that many people clamoring for Nankins, don't you think one of the hatcheries might step up and offer them?
You would think, but then what happens is when there's not an availability, people don't know about these chickens because this is our job, is to get people to know about them, to ask about them.
We're talking about Nankins right now. Everyone, if you want Nankins, go contact your favorite hatcheries and say, get Nankins.
Go contact Ginger at McMurray Hatchery and say you want Nankins.
Some Nankins. This is a very plain name for a pretty little bird, but Nankins were originally known as yellow bantams.
Well, they're buff. Yeah.
They were found in England many hundreds of years ago. According to the Livestock Conservancy, there is evidence that Nankins were there before the 1500s.
Wow, that is a long time ago.
That's pre-Renaissance. That's a Dark Ages bird. And they may have been there even earlier. Sometime during the 18th or 19th centuries, people began referring to them as Nankins. Nankin is a corruption of Nanking, as it was believed that the Nankin originated specifically in China.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a link between the bantam and a cotton cloth produced in China. That is called
napkin.
It's actually called Nankin. I forgot about the napkin that quickly. And Nankin, the cotton, is probably just another corruption of Nanking or Nanjing.
They made their napkins out of it.
They did not. They actually made pants out of it. So men would wear Nankin trousers, or actually a lot of times boys would wear Nankin trousers.
Okay.
So it's a short stapled brownish yellow cotton that is like khaki colored.
Oh, okay. They're khakis.
Right, khakis. Literally, they are what later became known as khaki pants, khaki fabric. People started calling the bantams both Nankins and Nankins, and eventually this fell off, and they're simply known as Nankins.
That's what they're known as.
The Reverend Edmund Dixon, writing in the mid-1800s, had surprising praise for the Nankins, because, you know, he's a downer.
Yeah, he is a little bit of a downer over the times.
He called them the most useful of their type, being the most useful type of bantams. And he pointed out that they are beautiful birds.
They're really cute.
Yeah. He reported the Nankin hens as great mothers of chicks, partridges, pheasants, and guineas, though they do have minds of their own because they are smart little birds.
I mean, Martha did sit on a clutch for you and hatch them. So,
yeah.
I mean, you know that she was a good mom.
She's only gone broody once since then, but Nell, Martha's the smallest of that lot, and then Nell's the next biggest.
Right.
She's Nellie Park Custis because they all have Washington family names. Nell goes broody about every other month.
Yeah.
There is apparently some evidence that Nankins are one of the foundation breeds used by Sir John Seabright to develop the beautiful Seabright Bantam.
But he did a good job of taking the Nankin out of the Seabright.
Right.
Because they're good broodies, and the Seabrights don't go broody.
They're also probably one of the best layers of the Bantam class.
Right.
The Nankin in U.S. history is not well documented. There are mentions of them here and there. In colonial and early America, we know they were here. Nankins appeared in a newspaper article in 1799. They appeared in another in 1899. But at some point in the 20th century, they faded into obscurity. The late Mark Fields has a difficult to find but very good book on Nankins where he traces their time in the U.S.
Okay.
By the 1950s, the Nankin was presumed to be extinct in the U.S. and very, very rare in the U.K.
Oh, well, that was that availability.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. Well, I don't think
availability or knowledge of. you know?
Well, also, we're talking the mid-20th century.
Right.
Everything was going to leghorns, and then everything was going to hybrids.
Right.
So, yeah.
Then came the 60s.
That's right. In the 1960s, a handful of breeders worked to have Nankins imported to the U.S. from the UK. So clearly they found some there.
Right.
One of these people was Leonore Herring. She's well known amongst poultry historians for her poultry library and her meticulous research. So all of our current Nankin flocks come from those later imports in the 60s and later. And this is kind of interesting to me. This is an ancient breed of tiny chicken. Like, we know they've been around for thousands of years.
Right.
They were not accepted by the American Poultry Association until 2012.
A little crazy. Now, they do come in both straight and rose comb varieties, which is kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
And they're both accepted by the APA and the Standard of Perfection.
Right. We do know that the Nankins were important in early America. I mean, we do know that they were here. The hens are so useful, they're usually referred to as natural incubators. I mean,
They're bantams.
essentially, if you have a flock of Nankins, you almost always have a hen who is willing to hatch eggs.
Right.
Their usefulness is well established. But bantams tended to be less practical than a standard dual-purpose bird, so they tended to be kept by the wealthy. And remember, I mentioned that magazine article from 1899?
Right.
That is about ladies keeping Nankins.
Right.
Because they were acceptable for a genteel young woman.
Right. A big guy's not going to want to keep a 1-pound bird.
Well, gamekeepers did, though. So if it were wealthy families, they were usually keeping Nankins for the women folk, but also because they would have gamekeepers who used the Nankins to hatch pheasants and other game birds.
I mean, a big part of their job was broody.
Exactly.
Was being broody.
Right.
That's a big part of any bantam's job.
Yes. And of course, like we said, the 1950s, post-war, you had all those changes coming, and people went to incubators much more than broody hens.
I'm still a little crazed by that because I think broody hens, I'm watching it and talking to Fiona all the time. I think it's so much easier.
It is so much easier. You just let that hen do her job.
Right.
I mean, Martha was the best broody ever.
Yeah.
She did everything. She was amazing. So obviously, even though people thought they were almost extinct in the UK, they were still there somewhere.
Right.
Because it was 1963 when that second wave of American Nankin breeders first imported more eggs.
Well, that's good that they did that.
1963, absolutely.
That's for sure. So
Yep.
let's go into their appearance. So the Nankins were called yellow bantams for a good reason. You
Yep.
know, the hens are, they're a really pretty buff to light chestnut kind of color with black in their tails. And the roos are deep chestnut with the beautiful beetle green, black tails outlined in chestnut. Both sexes have slate blue legs. Love slate blue legs on chickens. So pretty.
I think that the blue stands out so well in contrast to the buff and the chestnut. It makes them look really brightly colored.
Yeah.
They're so beautiful.
They have small white earlobes and moderately sized combs and wattles on the roos and tiny, let's use the word dainty ones on the hens. And they have an upright tail and a bright, curious expression. So they're cute.
They are adorable.
Now, they do come, like I said before, in straight and rose comb varieties. So you have a choice on what you like to get. And they're tiny. Let's look at the size. Hens come in at about 1.6 pounds and the roos come in at about 1.8 pounds. That's 0.2 of a pound more. That's nothing.
Saramas are still smaller than Nankins, but Nankins are really tiny.
They're really tiny.
I
Now,
mean, when you see them like in person, they're just the most diminutive little delicious morsels.
they're tiny, tiny. Nankin hens are fairly good layers, probably the best among the true bantams.
Right.
Okay. We're talking true bantams, not bantams overall.
Right.
Okay. They can average about 3 to 4 eggs a week when they're young. Now, every bird has their average the first few years
Right.
that will start to diminish
Right.
as they get older. The eggs are white and cream colored. And surprisingly, this is for most bantams, the yolk's bigger in bantam eggs.
Yeah, you have that big yolk to white ratio. It makes a really good fried egg sandwiches.
Right. They're like a richer egg because there's a bigger yolk. And as we mentioned earlier, the hens are known as, like we said, excellent moms. They're going to go broody for you. They're going to hatch. They're going to take care of those babies. And they'll hatch anything that can fit under them.
Yes. So you might have a little bit of a hard time with the turkey egg, but quail, grouse, and pheasant, like
Right.
that's what gamekeepers historically used
Right.
them for. They would hatch all that out. The hens are these sassy little things.
I mean, they're crazy. Now, put that broody ability aside. Nankins are very practical. Okay.
They're super chatty and friendly. They make excellent pets and companions. It's hard to be sad around the Nankins. I love them so much.
They're great birds for the show circle.
And they make a beautiful addition to a bantam flock or a backyard flock.
They also love helping with the garden, but they're tiny. What do we say about tiny birds? They can fly.
They fly very well. And so if you free range them, you need to do it very cautiously. I will only let a couple birds out at a time because I cannot keep track of all of them.
I mean, the last thing you want to do is let them out and then you're having to climb a tree. That's not fun.
Well, when we're loaded, there was an eagle this morning.
Yeah.
There was an eagle screaming in the woods right behind my coops this morning. So I'm not letting my Nankins fly.
A run that's
eagle.
like a big aviary where they can run around and they don't have to come out all the time may make your life a little bit easier.
Absolutely.
And, they're good for these birds.
If you are going to have them out, they fare best with lots and lots of cover, like shrubs and things like that. They can dive under.
Now, we've talked about urban chicken keepers or small scale chicken keepers, people who don't have as much space. These birds are great for this because they're good layers. They're small birds, so you can get more and you don't need a huge space.
Yeah, if you only have small space or only have small coop and you like heritage breed birds and you can get yourself some Nankins, they're perfect for that.
And they lay well. So, you're going to get some good amount of eggs out of them.
They're also a lot of fun to have around. The cockerels do very well in bachelor flocks.
And you can speak for that because you have a bachelor flock of them.
They're super friendly and affectionate. All I have to do is go into the bachelor flock run and stand still, and I've got birds all over me.
Exactly. Now, they're bantams, so they're going to need help in the winter, okay?
They absolutely need protection from frostbite, and they can freeze to death if it's cold enough.
They're 1 pound, so they definitely need help.
So we have cozy coop heaters in our, as I said earlier, our Nankins are in omelet cube coops, and we do have cozy coop heaters in there. It works very well for them. But even though they can't tolerate winter very well, they do really well in the heat. As long as they have shade and plenty of water.
They're tiny.
Yeah, they do. They're very heat hardy.
Okay, so here we go. Where can people find Nankins? We had to drive to New Jersey for you to get your Nankins.
They're not easy to get your hands on. Sometimes you'll find them at commercial hatcheries, not often. It's really private breeders that are your best bet. You can check the Livestock Conservancy's breeders directory on their website. You can also, and this is probably the absolute best bet, join one of the active Nankin Facebook breeders groups. As of summer 2024, the Nankin Club of America has reformed and is accepting members. I will have them linked in the show notes. It looks like private breeders are also the best source in the UK. I just did a Google search and came up with some.
That's good.
You're going to find when you go to, unless the person is like completely like hard-hearted hairy, everyone who has these birds loves them.
Yeah.
Just great personalities.
Now, here's the part where I say, if you have the Nankin, send us your picture on an Instagram story. Hit the mention button, type our name into the mention, and then it will message it to us and we can reshare it on our stories. We'd love to see your chickens.
Are you ready to dive into the fascinating world of backyard ducks? Look no further than Metzer Farms, your premier destination for top quality waterfowl. Whether you're a seasoned breeder or just starting out, Metzer Farms has everything you need to elevate your flock to the next level. And if you're passionate about call ducks, you're in for a treat.
Metzer Farms hatches a stunning variety of call ducks, meticulously bred for their miniature size, beauty, and calm temperament. From snowy whites to vibrant colors, each duck is a masterpiece waiting to grace your backyard. Visit MetzerFarms.com today to browse their extensive selection and start your journey into the wonderful world of waterfowl. Metzer Farms, where passion meets perfection. Roosty's proudly sponsors Coffee with the Chicken Ladies. They're back with an innovative new product. You're going to want to check this out.
It's an extra large set, a 14-pound feeder and 3-gallon water with steep anti-roost lids. They're made of super durable material. You can either stand them on legs or hang them on brackets on your coop or fence. They're easy to remove and clean too. Plus, they look awesome.
We personally use Roosties and we're huge fans. So if you're raising chicks or keeping chickens, check out the Roosty store on Amazon or follow the link in our show notes. Okay, so are we ready to move on to main topic? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's about the time that we go across the pond and have coffee with Fiona. Yeah. How are you doing, Fiona?
Well, I don't feel so fabulous at the moment, but do you like the voice? I mean, I like to think it's low and husky, but no, it's a bit of
it's very
tonsillitis.
Like you've been a lounge singer for a while.
I like it.
I'm not going to sing. I definitely am not going to sing because you won't like it. Trust me.
Oh, so that's not good. So you're battling a little bit of tonsillitis right now, but I
but
hope
it'll
you
be
feel
fine.
better.
It'll go fairly quickly. I just sound pretty awful today. That's
Oh,
all.
man. So how are things going over there?
Oh, well, let's see. We have got chicks galore going on. So Puffins made her second clutch independent now. And most of the hen chicks from the first clutch have already left us. They've gone to their new home. We have got Egret's had hers and left them. Uno has finally had hers and left them. Now, she had 4 chicks, just 4, and she adopted another 12 from Pelican.
Wow.
I know Pelican made them independent, and Uno said, right, my chicks, every chick in the world belongs to me. So she took them in. So she had 16, and she had them for another 4 weeks before she made them into. I know, she's a wonderful hen. She really is. She's the broody hen from heaven. And Flamingo's got her little ones now. And Gannet 2.0 has finally decided to do the deed, and she's going to hatch on Friday.
Yay!
Yay!
There's chicks galore over there. You're right.
I know,
chicks
it's
galore.
wonderful. I love it. It's fantastic. They are just so fun. Oh, and Sky is flirting with going broody again. So we've got a decision to make, whether it's too late in the year or whether we do give her some eggs. I can't make my mind up at the moment.
How warm is it there? Are you having still summer temperatures or are you starting to get a little chillier?
It's actually been about 19 degrees Celsius, 20 degrees Celsius, fairly steady for quite a long time. And then today, it has been here 35 degrees.
Wow.
I know. Tomorrow it goes down quite a lot. It's going to be 27, and then it's back to like 24. So I'm sat here in shorts because it was just too hot to do anything. So I was doing inside paperwork because I just couldn't cope outside. It was far too hot for me.
We've had the summer of heat here. It's been horrible.
I noticed off your Instagram, it's been,
oh man,
I don't know how
bad.
you count, and the chicks as well. I mean, I've been running out today with ice cubes the whole time.
We had one stretch of 100 plus for 4 days straight. It was horrible. Wow. It was absolutely horrible. But it's getting a little cooler now, like 64 this morning when we woke up. Yeah. So we were happy with that. And we have our share of broodies over here, but everybody's taking their turn going broody. We're like, you need to stop this.
So I had...
No, give them eggs. Give them eggs. That's what I say.
No, no. I have enough new birds to deal with this year without hatching eggs, but...
Very true.
First, Cupcake, the Barn Elder, was broody. And she was a very determined broody, and she lost weight. And now Jane Goodall, the Langshan, is broody. And I know Orpingtons are huge, but Langshans are tall. And so when Jane puts herself into a box, she spills over. She's just too big for the nesting box. But
I have this vision of it being like a snake almost, kind of curling in, you know?
Kind of. I mean, if you look in the box, right? Actually, you don't even need to look in the box. All you need to do is poke your head in the coop and you see like 6 inches of tail sticking out.
Oh, bless.
So she just doesn't fit. She's so big. And it's hilarious. I take her out twice a day. So she eats and does whatever she needs to do. And she does that very classic explosion of energy.
Mine do too.
But
I love that though. It's so entertaining.
Funny. But given the size she is, it's hilarious. This giant chicken, she jumps in the air. She runs around.
I really got to see that on Instagram. Please publish that. I really want to see it.
I'm on my 3rd broody. I had Francesca, the Cochin, Margot, the Buff Orpington, and now Peony, the other Cochin. And they all do the and then run around. They're all, it's like, you all need to stop. Right now, there's no boy in there. There will be no chicks. Like, come on, let's get with this. But that's not what we're going to be talking about today, but it kind of does tie a little bit with it because this sometimes when you have a brood can cause this afterwards. And today we're going to talk about molting because we do that every year because it's a big deal in the chicken world. It really is.
And it's a big shock for first-time chicken keepers as well because I honestly think most first-time chicken keepers don't know and haven't been told about, unless they've done a lot of research, they don't know that a molt happens. And I get so many notes from people going, what's wrong with my chicken? They look like they're oven ready.
Yes, exactly.
And it's a normal reaction. It's horrible when you see it for the first time.
It's really startling the first time, especially when the chicken is 2, because that's that first catastrophic molt when they lose everything. I can't tell you the amount of people I've had say, my chicken what is happening? We say molting, and they say, well, they didn't do that last year. And we say, are they 2? Yes.
Yeah.
Just because they don't do that catastrophic molt their first year, it really throws people off.
Yeah, and they're far too young to do it because they've already gone through, in that first year, they've gone through multiple iterations of feathers as they grow. Yeah. So, I mean, my orchard at the moment where the chickens live looks like a chicken's exploded because of all the chicks going through their iterations of feathers. Oh, and then I've got the broodies who are going through their broody molt as well. Yes. So it really does look like a chicken somewhere has exploded in there.
So when you have a chicken that goes broody, it's very stressful on their body. I mean, they don't eat and drink as normal. They're in a closed, confined, box trying to hatch these eggs that aren't going to hatch really. And then their body says, whoa, I'm going to reset. And that's when you got the broody molt. So you can be molting throughout whatever part of the year. And I've noticed this year, molting started earlier. It started earlier.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that. Now, to be fair, none of my non-broody hens have started yet, but I'm on guard for it because normally it seems counterintuitive when the molting actually starts is autumn when the weather turns cold, and it feels counterintuitive, but it is the right time of year to go into a molt, because you are getting to the really, really, really cold months and they need new feathers, they need the waterproofing, and they need all that new down to keep them beautifully warm. It's like getting a brand new winter coat, isn't it?
It is. And when you look at those feathers when they fall out, you can sometimes see why it's so important, because a lot of times one side of the feather's really worn down and one side isn't. And that's not giving them the protection that they need. So they need those fresh new feathers. I can't stand it when they do a molt in December, when they lose all those feathers. I'd rather have them do it earlier so that all the feathers are already in there. Now, let's talk about some of the things that we do that can help assist the chickens while they're going through a molt.
Well, the first thing I do is change their food over. So if they were on layers pellets before, which most of them will be at that time, I change them all over to growers, which is your all flock. So it's much higher protein. So that is their baseline food. And then I reassess all the treats they're getting as well, because if those treats don't involve some kind of protein, and it's far more difficult for us here in the UK than it is for you in the US.
Right.
Because we've got all of these animal byproduct rules around here, which means we can't give them all sorts of things. But, I do reassess all of that food intake because that protein building block is the first one I'm looking at. But I'm also looking at the calcium and the vitamin nutrients that they need. So I put them on. I actually use something from the little feed company called Vitamin Plus, put that in their water, and that gives them a nutrient boost that way. But I do make sure they've still got access to coarse oyster shell as well, because even though I'm taking the calcium away from the layers pellets, they still need calcium to construct new feathers.
Yeah, they definitely need that. And for the eggs that are in the background trying to, churn over, they're going to need that calcium too. We have something over here by Nutrena called Feather Fixer, which is a food that it's meant for molting, and it's meant for...
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's got a bunch of protein and herbs and amino acids and everything in it to help during the molt. So that's a really good thing to do. So can I just stop there?
Because if any UK feed companies are listening to this, can we have one, please?
Yes, definitely. It's amazing.
It's good stuff. I use that for all of my I use that for all of my birds except the Nankins. The thing with the Nankins or any really small birds like that is that they tend to do better with even higher protein.
Oh, right.
And so the Nankin roosters are starting to molt right now. One of them doesn't even have tail feathers. He has a little stump.
Oh.
And so
every time you talk about the Nankins, I just want to go, I love your Nankins. They're so beautiful.
They're so stinking cute. And the boys are so sweet. But what I'm going to try with them is Nutrena's game bird food, because it has a 22% protein.
Ah, right.
So
I was actually thinking of trying quail food from over here because it's higher protein and lower calcium, but it's got enough calcium for the feathers, but not enough it's going to cause damage as the layers pellets would. So I was actually going to try that this year and see how that works out.
It's a good idea. I mean, we know from conversations with the folks at Nutrena that they're creating feeds where the calcium and phosphorus, and I think it's magnesium, are all balanced to the point where they're not detrimental for, say, males that don't need that much. So a lot of the feeds that I never would have tried before, I'm going to give a try and see how they do.
All right.
So what's something in your pantry that you can give them? Like for me, I give them peas, because peas, as a frozen peas, and I heat them up for them, they're high in protein, and they're really good for that. What are something that you guys give out of the pantry to help during a molt?
Absolutely nothing, because we're not allowed to in the UK.
Yeah.
If it's been in the house, if it's crossed the threshold, across the kitchen, we can't do it. But I can give peas and beans straight from the garden.
Nice.
Which I do. So with the beans, clearly I'm boiling them, but I'm boiling them outside. And I know that seems extreme, but it's all part of the rules. And we're lucky we've actually got an oven in one of the barns.
That's
because
awesome.
we do candle making out there. So we have a friend of ours who's actually throwing out their Calagas oven. So we've got that installed in one of the barns, and we make our candles and anything stinky out there. So I now do the chicken's beans out there too.
Nice. I love that. That's fantastic. One of the things that will come out of my pantry, and you have to go easy on this because their fat content is super high, but sunflower seed meat.
Mm-hmm.
Throw some of that out. Has some nice protein. It has nice fat for them. Again, you got to keep it really moderate because they don't need a ton of it. It's really rich.
Other thing you can try is canned tuna. You can give a little bit of tuna that's really high in protein. That can help bring some of that protein up. And I mean, we are lucky to have a food by Nutrina that's made for this. So, you can start it right with the pelleted food. And, just helping and watching them. The number one thing not to do is put something over them, like a sweater or something, because you feel that, you got to cover them up. That's a big thing that you shouldn't do.
It's really hard, though, for first-time chicken keepers not to want to keep their chicken warm. When you see your chicken essentially looks oven-ready, because let's face it, that's what they look like in that catastrophic molt, it's really hard not to want to keep them warm. But there's other ways of giving them that warmth. So you can give them a little bit of sweet corn, but, not too much, because it does raise their body temperature, but it also adds an awful lot of fat. An awful lot of fat. And I have to say, Gannet 2.0 here, much as I love her, probably overindulged over winter on sweet corn.
Oh, boy.
She's on a diet. While she's in, it's actually quite good that she's brooding at the moment, because she's actually losing the fat and not muscle mass. You can see actually underneath her, I'm doing the body condition test by putting my hand underneath her to see how the muscles feel around the keel bone. She's not lost any mass at all. But what she has done is she has lost weight. So she's using up all those fats, the fat reserves that she put on by eating so much maize in winter. So, Gannet, you're on a diet. But, that is something you can do instead. And the other thing you can do, if you don't have a heat source in the coop, like I know in the US that you have heaters that you can put in the coop. It's quite common, less common here in the UK.
I was going to say the panel heater. You could add some extra warmth in your coop with that. But it's exactly right.
Yeah, and if the chickens need it, they'll go into the coop instead of being outside, because they're not stupid. If they know there's a heater in there, they will go to it instead of being out in the cold.
Right. Oh, my girls love their heaters.
I just wish we had heaters here in the UK. I can't find a proper panel heater in the UK voltage at all. So we have to use brooder plates.
I was going to say, if you took the legs off a brooder plate and found a way to fasten it on its side, it would, it's exactly the same technology.
Yeah, I just put it on maximum leg size and kind of prop it up as much as we can. And that gives some ambient heat into the coops, because all of our coops are actually quite small. They're not like the larger coops that you see a lot of people having. They're not shed size. They are small coops, and they are, because we free range, they're only used for the chickens to sleep in. They don't live in them as such, just for them to sleep in.
Right. That's essentially, that's my setup too. And the heaters are most effective in the smaller coops, because the two big, gigantic Amish layer coops, we have to have at least 2 panels in there to make a difference.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So
the thing to remember is when chickens are patting when the pin feathers are coming through, that's the most painful time. So once those feathers have poked their way through, they'll probably feel a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah, and if you're a new chicken keeper, they really do look like pins. And if you press on them, they feel like pins to the chickens. I've been told by a vet friend that it really does feel like it's poking a knitting needle almost into their skin. And I know. I wish you could see our face at the moment because we're all kind of grimacing and going,
It's just kind of horrible. I mean, they have a follicle for the feather to come out of, but it can't feel good. And that's why a molting bird might be standing around, not eating as much, just not feeling good.
Hunched over, yeah.
Yeah.
And if you see somebody who isn't doing well, even though it's a natural process, intervention is needed. So if you see somebody who just feels so bad that they're not eating their food, you might want to bring them in. And if they're in my household, they will get a liquid meal because that's what everybody gets. And they will get some extra, stuff or be brought in by themselves so that they don't have to fight for the food where they hurt. So you do kind of still have to watch them and watch the process, even though it's natural. Intervention is sometimes needed.
We've got an intermediary stage where before they actually come in, we keep them in the coop. So I put the coops on manual open instead of having it on solar open. And I let all the other girls out except the one that I need to keep an eye on. And I put a hot mash in, a really wet hot mash, because that aroma encourages them normally. And if they're not responding to that, then they'll be brought in for a bit more care and attention.
Yeah. A little TLC.
Yeah.
And like you said, adding vitamins to their water, Nutri-Drench, that's also good stuff to do.
Yeah, it's a big pick-me-up. The strange thing is, this time, I did a little bit of an experiment because I was curious to see whether they really liked the taste with the Revitamin Plus in or whether they were just drinking it because that was their water source. So I put it in some of the drinkers and not in some of the others. Guess which ones went down? The ones with the Revitamin Plus in it. They didn't like the plain water. They wanted the ones with the flavored water. I suppose it's like kids. It's a bit like, they want the cool pop.
Yeah. But
that's what I like to think of it anyway. Cool pop.
A bit of vitamin and mineral support goes a long way when they're molting. I mean, I think, you need a little bit of fat because you need the fat soluble vitamins like vitamin A, vitamin E that they need for skin and feathers. And then just some overall support, from a vitamin supplement can really, really help them stay balanced, stay eating and drinking, all the normal things. I think as long as you still have something for them to eat, I think free-ranging molting chickens is really good for them. It gets them moving, it gets them eating.
It's knowing your team, isn't it? That's the thing. It's actually knowing your normal behavior as well. Yeah. So that if one of them is struggling in molt, you can easily see that, yes, they're struggling. And if you don't have that relationship with them, it's easy to miss the signs that they need a little bit of TLC, bless them.
Yeah. I do want to bring up one point because this has happened to some of my girls over the years, and it's something that you should watch out for. Is if you have a girl who doesn't want to eat and get herself interjected, sometimes they eat around the edges of the run and they eat things they should not eat. And Holly and I have both said over the years, we feel like molting chickens tend to get crop infections a little bit more often because they're eating stuff that they normally wouldn't eat. So watching that aspect of it and making sure the crop is healthy during the molt also is really important. Just checking it, making sure that it's not infected. That's also another little check that you can do.
Yeah,
very true. Yeah.
My beautiful Silver Lace coach and Emma, I went out one day and let the girls out. This was last year. And Emma leaned down to drink and regurgitated. So I had a complete panic and I scooped her up and packed her off to Dr. Rebecca to get a cytology. And her crop was filled with bacteria and junk because she probably hadn't been eating well. But she was in the middle of her catastrophic molt as a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
And she just felt so lousy that she was picking at dirt. She just wasn't eating properly. So a week of antibiotics and some liquid meals, and she was fine. She's starting to molt again right now, early to mid-August. So I feel like my roosters have always started molting in, say, July, and roosters don't necessarily molt as much or as many feathers as hens will.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to see the hens molt right now, too. Just a few of them. Pansy the Swedish flower, Emma the Cochin, Cupcake the Barnevelder. I'm starting to find feathers Well, different subject, but I also have a gigantic pile of goose down because Mirabelle, the Toulouse goose, is molting some of her baby feathers.
Wow, there's a cushion in your future, I think.
Right?
Yeah.
Go harvest.
Yeah, why not? But is it worse? I mean, I've never had my team in a molt while they're in a run because we've got this wonderful thing in the UK that we don't have the aerial predators that you've got. So my lot free range until legally we have to keep them indoors. So they've always molted while they've been free ranging. Is it worth in the run putting more feeders out? Is it competition for the feeders? That's the problem.
You can never go wrong with more feeders. I feel like if you give them more places to go to eat, if they don't want to touch anybody or they're acting a little different, so they get pushed out, that's always a good thing. That's a really good suggestion.
All it takes is a couple of mean girls realizing, hey, she looks like she doesn't feel well. I'm just going to push her.
It's high school, isn't it? It's high school all over again.
It's very high school. But I think it can really help to make sure there's a lot of food sources.
Were you a mean girl, Holly?
Or was I a mean girl? No.
No.
I'm the salty.
Chrissy.
I was not either.
I wasn't. I was a nerd.
Is there any doubt that I was a nerd?
I was a cheerleader. I don't know if there's any doubt that I was a cheerleader. I don't know. But yeah, it's just worth watching a little bit closer to make sure. And I can't stress it enough that even though it's natural, intervention is sometimes needed. And it's just that extra TLC, vitamins, minerals, extra food. The hot mash is excellent. Separating them if they're not eating, just watching your flock, all those things. All the extra stuff that you can give them, it all helps.
Apart from picking them up and cuddling them.
Don't do that.
I mean, you might need to pick them up to give them an exam, but don't pick them up for hugs right now. It's not great. So
but even then, I'm not doing it as much when they're in molt. I'm only picking them up to do health exams. I give health exams every week with the team, once a week for all of them. But I don't do it during molt unless I see a problem.
Pick somebody who's not molting the hug.
Exactly. So I think a good recap is observation. Know your bird's regular routine, know what to look for, keep your eye out for those falling feathers. You're going to see a few at first before you get the whole,
oven ready look.
Yeah. Have some good supplements and some good snacks on hand for them. So be prepared if somebody doesn't feel well, you can offer them these things and try free ranging them a little bit so they get more exercise and more opportunity to eat. Oh, and the last thing, more food bowls if necessary.
And increase your protein a little bit because they're going to need it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Fiona, thank you so much for coming on this month. We always have the molting talk with you because you have really good suggestions. And, it's always good to get a fresh look at it and just see what we're all doing and we can learn from each other. I love it. I love our roundtables.
Yeah, well, I just want one of the UK feed companies now to come out with the same ranges that you've got access to because they sound amazing in comparison. They really do.
It's ridiculous how lucky we are with the amount of choices for good feed right now. It's the best I've ever seen it, and we are extremely grateful.
We're so happy for Nutrina because they're coming out with so many innovative foods right now. It's just awesome.
Yeah, just very jealous.
We'll talk to you later on that note.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
We just want to thank Fiona one more time for a really great conversation. I know a lot of you have reached out to us to say your birds are molting early.
Ours are too.
Yeah, ours are too. So we're all in the same boat. So some good tips. Thanks, Fiona.
Thank you. Okay, so let's move on to
cracking the eggs.
Cracking those eggs. Now, today, we're doing something sweet because we got a sweet tooth. So we're doing Blackberry Jam Cupcakes.
These are so good. And they work for the late summer, early fall feeling. They got some spices in there.
Yeah. But blackberries are good. Even though some can be a little seedy, they're still good.
They're still delicious. Well, you're doing jam. That's the whole thing.
It's the jam.
You're going to use seedless jam for this. You're going to be sorry if you use heavily seeded jam. It's going to ruin the texture of your cupcake.
You'll be like, oh, they're crunchy.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go into the ingredients. Let me read through these. 1 1/3 cups of all-purpose flour or gluten-free 1-to-1. 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. 1/4 teaspoon of ground nutmeg. There are your fall seasonings right there. a half a teaspoon of salt or sea salt, 6 tablespoons of butter or that dairy-free butter, and it needs to be softened, a 1/3 cup of light brown sugar, pack it in, 1 large egg, so this one just takes the 1 egg, a teaspoon of vanilla, I never measure mine, I just do a splash.
Me too.
A 1/3 cup of buttermilk or do-it-yourself dairy-free buttermilk, and 2/3 of a cup of seedless blackberry jam.
You're going to preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, line 12 muffin tins with paper liners, or you can really go crazy and use those giant muffin tins and just make yourself 6 giant cupcakes.
I have 2 of those and I use them all the time. I love the giant muffin cupcakes.
I do too. If you want a medium-sized mixing bowl, you're going to whisk the flour, baking powder, baking soda, cinnamon, nutmeg, and salt. Once that's uniformly blended, set it aside. In a large mixing bowl, you're going to cream together the butter and the sugar until light and fluffy. Add in the egg and the vanilla, scrape down the sides. Lower the mixer speed to medium. You're going to add the flour mixture and the buttermilk in 3 different additions. Flour, then the buttermilk, then the flour again.
Right.
You're going to beat them until just combined. Then you're going to add the jam. Remember, that's seedless jam. And beat on low speed until it is just mixed into the batter. Scoop this or spoon this into your cupcake or muffin tins. Pop them in the oven for 18 to 20 minutes or until a tester comes out clean. Let them cool completely and use whatever your favorite frosting is.
I think a cream cheese would be really good on this.
It would be excellent, but since I can't do cream cheese, I have date syrup.
Okay.
And I do a date caramel frosting.
Yeah, I think I would do a cream cheese and put a blackberry on top with a mint leaf. Mm-hmm. That's what I would do.
I always do the mint leaf and blackberry on them, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I have my date caramel frosting linked anywhere, so maybe I'll add that onto this.
Yeah.
So that's a good one if you can't have dairy products.
Exactly. So try it. You might like it. Send us pictures if you make these cupcakes. We want to see them. Okay. So we're ready to move on to retail therapy. Retail therapy. Yeah. This week's retail therapy, we're going back to vintage because we're vintage. You know, our hearts are vintage girls, right? Like we want the thrill of the find something vintage. And we're going to look at chicken china sets with dishes, okay?
And we're going to talk about ones that are a little more contemporary. For one, it's easier to get them. And for another, you don't have to be worried about like lead or things like that.
Right.
Unsafe glazes.
The ones that you're going to get that are really old, they're going to be more for doing a place setting and taking nice pictures. You're not really going to be eating off of these dishes a lot.
That's just collectible. But we do have the names of several contemporary makers, and they are safe to eat off of.
Yeah, there's a lot of them out there. Now, if you're in a thrift store and you come across a good set, which I have had multiple good sets of chicken china, buy the whole set that you can.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get it much cheaper in the thrift store than you're going to on, let's say, eBay or Etsy.
I feel like it's also, if you decide you want to pass it along, people are much more likely to buy a complete set if you have it.
Right. I mean, another good place is Facebook Marketplace.
Yes.
A lot of people put sets of dishes on there.
Yeah.
So I kind of go on there and check it out and occasionally and see if there's something chicken print that we want.
Right.
Today, I'm on Etsy because Etsy they are more expensive, but they do have a lot of cool stuff.
And they're also curated. So they're going to tell you who the maker is and things of that nature.
Now, there's a lot of mid-century vintage on Etsy right now.
And a lot of different makers, yeah.
I am seeing a plate that's a square rooster large plate that I own and I paid $4 for in the thrift store, going for $159 on Etsy.
I don't even know what's happening there because I have 2 of them that I bought in the thrift shop too, and I paid $3 or $4 for them. I think either that person doesn't know what they have or we don't know what we have. I don't know which it is.
Now here, as we were sitting, looking through, seeing what we wanted to talk about, what was popping out at me a lot are the snack plate, lunch plate sets. Love those.
So they're not going to be a complete set of china.
No, but they're a set and they are a snack plate and a teacup.
Right.
So if you want to entertain your bestie, you want to make the cupcakes and have some coffee, that would be awesome to serve it on.
Not in that cup. That cup's like an espresso cup. Girl, you got to give me a proper mug of coffee if we're going to have a cupcake. These little dainty things. Although, I have used those little dainty cups to arrange flowers in.
Yeah, they're really
pretty.
Cute. I mean, it would be great to showcase your cupcake. That's for sure.
Serving me coffee in that thing.
There's so many different types. Now, MCM Royal China is a big one on here. Okay.
So if you're looking for contemporary collectible full sets, A couple that we really like are Sakura.
There's also Cracker Barrel. You can get a
Cracker
set
Barrel.
there every year. They change them every single year.
Certified International.
Mm-hmm.
I've got Pottery Barn here, so they must have at least one chicken set out.
Right.
Flatscraft.
Right.
You can also find Goose and just general farm themes with
Right.
Flatscraft.
Or you can just go on and look at all the different ones that are on
See what
here.
you find that's pretty. And of course, you know, if you're doing shabby chic, you can have full settings, but different sets.
Right.
That's fun too.
Where I like to look for these also is a local place to us called the Shabby Button. It's a consignment / like thrift. It's not really thrift. It's like it's a consignment store, right?
Yeah.
So they have a corner in this store that I've taken you in multiple times. That's usually every time has lots of chickens.
I pop into the Shabby Button when I can. I love their stuff.
Yeah. So they're a place that I go to look for the sets that I'm going to be looking
In
for.
fact, maybe I'll go to the Shabby Button when we finish.
So yeah, like giving everybody a different plate. It's kind of cool. A different cup.
Again, if you're going to eat off of them, use the later makers who don't have things like crackled glaze or lead in the glaze.
Unless you want a little lead, then you can use the older ones.
So you'll be x-ray proof.
Yeah, exactly.
A little heavy metal action there.
So if you just go in, what I'm searching was vintage chicken china dish sets. Bunches come up. So go in and look.
eBay too. Again, eBay's not as curated as Etsy, but they're out there and they're really fun to look at.
So take your 5-minute vacation, go in and look and see what you like. Okay, so should we tell everybody what we're going to be talking about next week?
Next week, we are spotlighting I love this bird, the beautiful 55 flowery hens.
Yep.
Main topic, questions and answers with Dr. Rebecca.
Welcome back, Dr. Rebecca. We love you.
Cracking the eggs, sausage and hominy casserole.
That seems good for summer.
Give me vegetarian too. It's a good one. And retail therapy, vintage chicken barware, because we're feeling vintage.
Yeah, we want to drink, man.
Vintage fall.
Okay, so what should we tell everybody to do until next week?
Hug your chickens.
Every day and kiss them too. We'll talk to you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
If you'd like to see more of us, please follow us on Instagram at Coffee with the Chicken Ladies. If you'd like to help us grow the podcast, please leave us a written review on Apple Podcasts. If you'd like to become a patron of the show, please visit our Patreon page, patreon.com/Coffee with the Chicken Ladies. Thanks for listening.